Hi there, my name is Jamie, and I'll be showing you through how our CleverTime system works. Let's start by logging into CleverTime. So this is our website address and our login page. So usually you would enter our email address and a password, and then we'll sign in. In this instance, we're going to sign in as a supervisor, not an employee, since we're both. And after logging in, we are presented with our dashboard view, giving us an overview of the employees we look after and their current status, whether they're in, out, on leave, or haven't clocked at all for the day. On the left side is the information panel. If employees have requested leave, the number of pending requests is shown. And if employees are going on leave within the next 2 weeks, the number of employees is shown here as well. We can click on that number to see those requests. In the case of a pending leave request, we can then decide if we want to approve that pending leave request or not. Approve it, put in any comment if we wanted to, that will go back to the employee and hit save. In this case, we'll leave it pending and we'll go back to our dashboard again. If someone is upcoming on leave, we can click on that number to see who and when. And we can see that Alice actually was on sick leave today. Okay, and we'll go back to our dashboard again. Now, further down, we've got our exceptions. That's any potential problems that have occurred from yesterday through to now, daily exceptions. We've got a number beside each type of exception, and we can click on that number to get a list of those issues and resolve them if we want to. You can also click Browse Period to browse a whole pay period of potential problems and get everything sorted out, ready to run your payroll. Let's just click on this late arrival here. And we can see Dee was was actually quite late on this day. She's scheduled to arrive at 8:30. She's actually clocked in the afternoon, 12:57. So in the case of a late arrival, that's just there ready to let you know. We don't really have to do anything about it. We could actually mark it as reviewed if we want to, and then it'll remove it off our exceptions list. Or in the case of unapproved overtime, that's someone who's worked outside of their schedule. In this case, we can see John here. He's started quite early, started at 7:58 in the morning, but he is scheduled to be at work at 8:30. In this case, we can approve that early start if we wanted to be paid that extra half an hour there with the shift card option, and approve the early arrival there. And then you'll get that approved. Then it will disappear off our list. It's no longer an exception. So exceptions are quite an easy way to deal with any problems and make sure everyone's going to get paid how you want them to. Now, let's jump into an employee's timesheet. We can click the timesheet icon against an employee to have a look at their timesheet for the current week. So we'll jump in and have a look at Heather's timesheet first. Now we can see she's forgotten to clock out on Thursday. To insert the missing time, we can just click the plus at the bottom of the day, enter the time, either in 24-hour format, or with a P after it, if it's a PM time, for example. So we might put, maybe she's usually clocks out at 5 PM. We could just put 1700 in there, or we could put 5P in there. It's going to interpret that as 1700 at the top. We can also put in a memo if we wanted to. In this instance, we might put that she'd forgotten to clock, so we had to enter it for her. Let's just enter forgot to clock and save it. Now, if we hover over the bottom of a shift, it gives us a little bit of extra information. So we can see the position that shift was worked in was the Auckland sales rep position. And in this case, we've got an out punch memo saying she forgot to clock. And then we can also see the exact amount of time between those punch sets. So between 9:02 and 1700 is 7.97 hours. Then at the bottom of that day, we can see our total NT for the day of 7.5 hours. NT is our code for normal time, and then that's calculated based on our rules or any rules you have set up within the system, 7.5 hours. So that basically is taking off a lunch break and rounding to the nearest 15 minutes in this case for this company's rules. If we do click the spanner for the day, we can get a little bit of information, extra information about that shift. If it was a scheduled shift, you'd have the scheduled start and finish time. If we click save as a schedule, we could actually enter a schedule for it. And maybe we want to schedule this shift to be from 9 till 5 for this day. We could do that. And if it is a scheduled shift, then you've also got options for approving an early arrival or a late departure. And then for both scheduled and unscheduled shifts, you can also decide if a meal wasn't taken. Maybe the employee didn't get a chance to take the meal that day. You can go meal not taken to not take the meal break off. Or maybe they actually asked to take a 60-minute lunch break on that day rather than a 30-minute. You could actually change the meal to be a 60-minute lunch break if you wanted to there. But I'll leave it on 30, and then we can save that. So now that they're scheduled, we can see there's an exception there showing. If there is a potential problem with a time, it highlights it in red just to let you know at a glance. And we can see this is highlighted in red because they were actually late to work by 2 minutes. They should have been at 9, they arrived at 9, and they arrived 2 minutes past. Okay. Now let's have a look at another, well, first of all, if we wanted to change periods, we can look at what this employee was doing the week before with this period button, previous period button. Or we can go into the future and see what's happening next week. And then if we want to change employees, we get our employee buttons. So we can look at the previous employee, next employee, or click the middle button to bring up a list of employees to choose another employee. In this case, we might just go and have another look at another employee in the system. Okay, for David, we can see David was absent on Tuesday. Perhaps he was off sick. We can click the bell at the top of that day to enter leave on behalf of this employee. So let's choose the leave type. Choose sick. Now we can either leave it to calculate the hours from their schedule, or if we wanted to, we can put in hours per day. Maybe we want to pay him 8 hours of sick leave for that day. Or maybe he went home partway through the day sick. So we can even do by time range. And maybe he went home at 1 o'clock through till 5 o'clock. The system will then calculate how many hours in between those times and apply that as the sick leave hours. But in this case, we actually want to just use the schedule. So we'll just turn by schedule back on and save it. And now it's showing him off on sick leave for that day in that green card. And our code for sick leave at the bottom will stay there, SL of 8 hours. Over on the right-hand side, we've then got our total hours for the pay period. In this case, this guy's going to get NT, normal time of 16 hours for the week so far, and sick leave of 8 hours. Okay, we're going to now look at how do we run reports from CleverTime. So if you're happy with all your employees' hours, you just wanted to get a report out to make sure everything looks good, we can jump over to reports in the menu. And our new reports are under report beta here. So there are a number of different reports available depending on your requirements, but let's run the time worked report, as this is the most used report with a good amount of detail in it. There are different conditions that you can optionally apply if you wanted to the report, as in how it's going to be grouped. Maybe you want it sorted in a particular way. Maybe you only wanted to run it for a certain location or department or position. Or maybe you wanted to run a report for a particular employee. Maybe you had an employee review coming up. Leave it blank if you want to run it for everyone. There are options over here too. Maybe you just wanted a summary version without so much detail. But the main one to choose is a date period. So we'll click the calendar icon. And in this case, we'll choose this current week and submit to run it. Before we submit, there are also different options to how you want to generate the report. Most people just generate as a PDF if they want to print it out. But it's also can export to a very nice spreadsheet in case you wanted to look at it on screen and manipulate values and data, or CSV if you wanted to import into another program. We'll leave it on PDF and submit. Okay, there's our time worked report. We'll zoom in a little bit. So we can see Alice was off on sick leave, total 24 hours of sick leave. So it's going to show you in this instance, I've left it to run the report by company structure. So within our company structure, we've got the first position, and then the total for that position, and then the total for that department that position is under. And then we move on to the next department and position. So we can see John's worked quite a few days there. He's showing us what he was scheduled to work, what he's actually worked, And then what he's been paid. So we can see here on the Wednesday, he's actually clocked in quite early, 7:55. Scheduled to start at 8:30. He's only been paid from 8:30, however, and that's because we haven't authorized or approved his early arrival there. So our exception codes, this is our exception column. If there are any problems with the times, it'll show you our 2-letter exception code. In this instance, EA's early arrival. Down here, LA's a late arrival, ED's an early departure, MP's a missing punch, so that person's forgotten to clock in. And then over on the right, we've got how many hours that person was at work for, less the break, and then how much normal time has been calculated. OT is our overtime column if you pay overtime, and then LT is if any leave has been entered. That's our leave time column. So in this case, we've got in the leave time column for the sick leave, and then normal time for the worked hours. If any notes have been entered, they will also appear against the shift that the note was entered against. So in this case, we've got a forgot to clock note there that we entered before. So yeah, just a good general report that gives you everything you need to know about what your employees have been working. Okay. Another very handy feature we have in CleverTime is auto send reports. So under the report menu, we've got our auto send reports. We can create a new auto send report here by clicking that new button and choosing the type of report we want. Maybe we want a time worked report. And then we can set any of our conditions we want for running the report, or just leave it like it is. And then we can set our schedule for when we want to run the report. So maybe we want to run this report on Monday, so maybe we'll select next Monday. And maybe we want to run it at 9 AM in the morning. And then rather than daily, maybe we want to run this report every week. So we'll choose weekly for the frequency. And then we can choose what data range we want on the report. So maybe if it was a daily report, you might want it yesterday or today. Since this is a weekly report, we're going to choose previous week to report on the previous week on a Monday at 9. And then you just need to put in the email addresses. So anyone you want to receive this report, we can just type their email address in. And then just press enter after it, put the box around it, and then you can enter any other email addresses you need to. In this case, we'll just get it going to the one person, and then we can just submit that to save it. And that'll kick off every week from next Monday. Okay, now to finish, let's just show you how you export your employees' hours through to your payroll system. So happy with everything for the previous pay period. We're going to, and ready to send it through to our payroll program. We're going to go to import and export, and then payroll transfer there. So usually this current pay period at the very top, so usually one down from the top will be your previous pay period. You can just check your from and to dates. That's the range you want to export. You can either put a check in the first column and use the export button up the top here, or you can just use your direct export button there. Some companies like to close the pay period. Once it's closed, supervisors can't make any changes anymore. So that's good for keeping it as an accurate record of what was actually sent through to payroll. But in this instance, we'll just go export. You can choose what part of the company structure you want to export, or in this case, so we'll just leave it blank. If you leave it blank, it'll export the whole lot. And it's just going to save a CSV file of all our employees' hours, ready for us to import into our payroll program. Usually in your payroll program, there'll be an option to import the timesheets. And then you just browse for that file to import it and process payroll as normal. So that's pretty much our system and how it works. Feel free to let us know if you have any questions. And thank you for your time.